Welcome to Expanded Understanding. I do not know why my camera. There we go. Maybe it will turn off the live view stuff now. Aaron is not with us yet. Aaron woke up late. He's getting his stuff in order and he will be joining us shortly. I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. Layla, Charlotte, Willow, Sam, Brittany. Jacob's in here. I saw him earlier. We got a lot going on around here today. My light's too bright, blinding myself. Number one thing we got going on today is that we have Brie Larson here. She's going to talk about her book that she's writing and being an empath and healing ourselves from narcissistic behavior, how these things interface with one another. And I think that's something that probably everybody in this chat or everybody that's on this channel can definitely, you definitely have some empathic abilities. So, hello, Brie. Good to see you here. We're going to go ahead and bring her on, and we'll bring her on right now when I figure out what buttons I'm pressing. Hi, Brie. How are you doing? Oh,
Yes,
your
hi.
mic. Oh, maybe this is me. I forgot to switch my speakers. Let's try one more time. Hi, Brie.
Hi, Zach.
What is going on with my speakers? There we go. Okay. I could hear you in the other room on a different laptop, but I couldn't hear you in my headphones, so I knew it was my fault.
Oh, okay, so we're good on sound
You, it does
ish.
seem, let me try bringing this out and back in. It seemed a little desynced. Maybe we're good.
Hello, hello. Does it sound okay?
How does it look to everybody in the chat? Is there any desync on this at all? Let's see. I'm checking in YouTube. Okay. It looks like it's good on YouTube. Somebody can let me know if it looks like the voice is out of sync with the video. Let me know and I'll fix it. But I think it might have just been me. I don't know. I have a lot of stuff open on my computer right now. I could probably use a reboot. So, Bree, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm Divine. How are you?
I am doing quite well. Very, very busy ever since I woke up, but like I like being a busy bee. I'm very vata, so I like to be blowing around all the time. So it's been pretty good with
So
that.
it's a perfect day for you then.
It's a pretty good day for me. Lots to do, lots to get accomplished.
Good.
So Brittany
Good.
says
Well,
there is a lag, but I think actually this comment is lagged because it doesn't seem lagged for me either anymore. So it's probably good. Um, I think we're probably
okay.
fine. So yeah, Aaron will be joining us whenever he does get ready. You have a book coming out sometime. You have some stuff that you've been handing out for free. Tell us about
Yes.
yourself.
Okay. So I am a journeyer, and my most recent journey is healing narcissism, and it's really cool because the book that I wrote is a memoir, and it's the relationship that I had with my twin flame ex-husband, and lots of healing has occurred, so I can talk about this openly. And that's basically what my memoir is about. Is through, I identified myself as an empath, and I felt all the things. I felt like I had some clairvoyance and clairaudience. Like there were just things that were just like becoming stronger as I was in this twin flame relationship. And I was equally losing my own trust in myself. So that's like part of my journey is like learning how to trust myself with my empathic intuitive abilities. Um, and with like cohabitating with someone who I would call a narcissist. And so that's the memoir. It's quite the journey. There's like ups and downs, like ever in between. I think anybody that reads this could relate to it. Um, and then there's a side book that's like a workbook. And this one is for the reader to just, aside from journeying, through a memoir, you can actually just like work on yourself and see your reflection in this workbook. And that's part of the free content that I've been giving out to people. So you can read the first few pages. Oh, thank you for pulling it up. There it is.
That would be this workbook that's on the screen. It is a video, so you'll have to deal with the extra triangle over the top of it. I really think that this thing is beautiful, though, with the tree yin yang kind of symbol that's going on here. I really like that symbol.
Thank you. Me
Does that
too.
symbol
And
represent anything to you, like perhaps empathy and narcissism?
yeah. And how they're, to me, it's a perfect yin yang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So inside of this book
Um,
that you have here, what's really the goal with the book?
the goal with it is for, and it's even for myself, it's for anybody that feels out of alignment with their partner or with themselves. Like if you're single and you don't have a partner, and maybe the world is reflecting in a way where you're like, whoa, like how am I attracting this? You know, we believe in the law of attraction and good vibes attract good vibes. Like, why am I attracting a not good vibe?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this book is going to assist us in just seeing our own reflection and honoring where we're at,
Mm.
because this book introduces perceptions of love. And so if you're experiencing through the lens of only one perception of love, that might be why you're out of alignment. So
Sure.
you can check yourself in this book and see where my views right now. Is my perception of love, does it align with this? If that's the case, I need to honor where I'm at now. And this workbook shows you how to do that. Where am I? How do I honor this? And then I can go forward and have a broader perspective.
Is there any kind of like specific activity that you personally partake in to honor yourself, or is it kind of like a fluidic thing that changes over time?
You know, I feel like depending on where someone is at, like in their life phase, they might resonate with something that's like more fluid. Like, because that's what I did. You know, as an empath, I was like, I'm gonna do what feels right. I don't need rigidity. I don't need, you know, structure. I just need to go with the flow. I'll wake up when I wake up, etc. But what I
Mm-hmm.
have found for myself after that not working anymore, and not realizing that that was the thing that wasn't working,
Right. Yeah.
but once, you know what I mean? But like once I realized that I actually did, in fact, need a little bit of structure, I almost tripped and fell on it, which turned into rituals. Like I had the most magical of days, and I was like, "How do I wait? What just happened? How do I
Mm.
how do you say that? Reverse engineer this?" And I realized what I did like the night before and the morning of, and so I actually implemented my own rising and resting rituals. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's in the workbook, is to actually implement your own rituals and see how that works. You can lock that in, and you can kind of like, it's kind of a modular experience,
Mm-hmm.
because you can like, you know, just pack and play and see what works and what doesn't.
I think it really is very important in the self discovery to kind of just play around with stuff and see what ends up working for you. It doesn't really seem that there's any one right way. So I like the modular stuff.
Yeah, me too. Because like, you know, we're fluid and we're not meant to, you know, be stuck in someone else's structure.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I have learned, because it fits like with the structure of my perceptions, you know, like what I put into my own philosophy, is that when we learn anything new, when we want to learn about ourselves, first we adopt something from someone else, like
Mm.
from a healer or a way shower. Someone
Yeah.
says, "Oh, you're having this issue? Well, what I do is I do this. Why don't you try it?" And so you adopt it, and you practice that like religiously.
Mm.
Otherwise, you don't know what's the outlier, right? So you
Right.
throw out all the things that you've been doing, because obviously that's not working. You adopt what you've been given by the way shower, and you practice that diligently for like
Mm-hmm.
3 days, 7 days, but enough days to where you can actually like track some kind of documentation and progress. Sometimes
Right.
it's 21 days. And then you can kind of piece it apart and be like, all right, I like that there's structure, but this and this, you can come from a place of wisdom now, instead of like, oh, this is
Mm.
different. I don't like that it's different. You know, when you start
Right.
something
Yeah.
new, like a workout, you know, you're like, I'm sore. It's uncomfortable. Like,
Mm.
no, there's a reason why. It's like, well, yeah, you're sore because you're not using those muscles.
Yeah. Kind of wouldn't be worth doing if it wasn't making you sore and stuff. It would just be the same shit you were doing before.
Yeah. So it's like you gotta muscle through it and just be like, all right, I committed to X amount of days. You go
Mm.
through those X amount of days, and then from there you can have wisdom and a like objective mind, and just be like, okay, what can I adopt and what can I throw out? Because I do believe that like within this workbook, it's so imperative that at a certain point, life gets so uncomfortable that you realize that something has got to change, and
Yeah.
so you just go on a journey of self discovery that way.
Yeah. I think it's very effective to try and kind of get yourself to make that change before it gets so uncomfortable that you need the change too. I know throughout my own life, I definitely like rode that wave where I would stick it out as long as possible and didn't want to let my little project fail, whatever that was. But then I really found that I was sticking it out too long with virtually everything. Like I had too much perseverance for my own good, you know?
Yeah.
So Willow
Yeah.
says here, don't adopt, adapt, and that's like really one of those in line with that perseverance too. If you keep your mind on that adapting thing, that can be extremely beneficial. Like if it doesn't feel great right now, there's probably a better way of doing it. So
Right.
I
Right.
use this quote a lot. Like if you don't fit in somewhere, you're perfect somewhere else. You know, but like we have to recognize that in our own mind too. Like if our mind's not working with what we're trying to generate, it's oftentimes better to kind of move it to a different place, see how it works there, and like you're saying, like make it into a bit of a ritual for a time, so that we're actually like really committed to doing it for some period of time, to see how it actually returns.
Yeah, yeah, and from a way shower. And to me, it's not just a way shower of someone like I'm sitting here on a podcast with you, and I can say I'm a way shower because I am. But like I could easily say, if you do my ritual, then you'll achieve X, Y, Z. I mean, that's not the case unless you aspire to be like me. You know what I
Sure.
mean? So it's like you gotta see someone who you're like, okay, this person is in alignment with where I want to be, where I
Yeah.
see myself. So it's like if I resonate with this person, I see them as a way shower, and I want to do the things that they're doing and achieve the things that they're achieving. And then I like the term don't adopt, adapt. However, you have to start with the first step, and you do adopt. It's like taking medicine. So when you take it, you become it's new. You bring it into your system, you make it part of you, and then from there you evolve because you're going to outgrow it. It's like a hermit crab looking for its home. You're just going to grow. You're going to keep
Yeah.
growing, and so you release it with love. You're like, thank you. It's like also like a lily pad, like a stepping stone. You're like,
Sure.
I got to take the first step, but I got to know where to land. So at least I'm going to like hold hands with a way shower, and if you find a good way shower, they're going to show you how to adapt to your own self.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going to like say like, now keep following me.
Sure. Yeah, I think also I think maybe there's two kind of formats of way showers. There's like that evolving one that can evolve with you, and then there's
Uh-huh.
also people like who are better for just like seasons. You know, like
Yeah.
maybe random metaphor, like I need to get better at baseball for whatever I want to be in my whole life. But what I want to be in my whole life is not just a baseball player, but a baseball coach. It's really good to add that little piece, and then adapt that system as well. Like get a different coach for a different thing. Sometimes the
Right.
specialized people are really, really good at that specific thing, but they're never going to evolve with you.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just leading each other home, right? And home is where you at your home residence. Like
Mm.
Alan Watts. Did I share this last time where Alan Watts he's like when you're you've got you're like a light post, and when you're sharing your light, you're not telling people to climb up your light post. It's like, don't take what I'm doing literally. Just allow this light to allow you to see yourself.
Right. Yeah, we can't copy without really taking into account the context of that. And I think personally, I think like every human, really like what your mission here is to be a unique expression of human existence. It doesn't really have to be some specific thing. You don't have to save the
Yeah.
world or make the electric cars or whatever. Just like be a unique expression of human existence. And in that, like you're never gonna have a way shower that is actually the way, but rather one
Right.
that can
No.
like show you part of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. They're being their most authentic self. And people unfortunately fall into the idolization,
Hmm.
of these people who are just so unapologetically themselves. It's like, how do you do that? How did you find that? How did you become that? It's
Sure.
like,
I think it's a weird
and
thing
some
when
people,
talking about the narcissism that sometimes that like idolization takes a person who was previously maybe not so narcissistic and actually kind of starts to brood that narcissism inside of them.
it's true. It's true. Because it is an evolution, right? Um, every single phase is so fun. So that's the beautiful thing about honoring where you're at. that sometimes we forget that there's more. And with someone that goes into that narcissist phase, and for people listening, this isn't someone who just thinks they're really great. This isn't someone that just loves their reflection or hearing their own voice. This is someone who manipulates their world. Like, they are a mind master and manipulator in these people. And it's not what you think. Like, I'm not even giving it justice, because a narcissist is someone who is so much in control of their world that most likely people love them and admire them and almost worship them. So it's really difficult to spot a true narcissist because they've got everyone under their own spell. So that's really fun for them to play in, especially when before you develop into a narcissist, you actually are so very much isolated because everything all happens in phases. In isolation, that's what I call the omega phase in my book. You go into this omega phase, create like finding your soul purpose, and then you share it with the world. And once you make all these connections with the world, these people resonate with you and they're excited that you exist. And these people are like, thank you for being you. And then, there's a path. So the narcissist could either choose the person can either choose, I'm going to fall into idolatry, or I'm going to continue evolving. And both are an experience, and both are going to keep leading you back to yourself.
Yeah. This is kind of a random question, but how do we separate that? Like, when someone they have proven to be really great in our life, or they showed us the way a lot, how do we keep from idolizing them and rather just like kind of honor the things that they have shown in our life? Where's that line really sit?
That line sits, at least for me, whenever I notice that, like, if I'm doing something for someone else, like if I feel like I'm doing something for someone else to approve of me, I think that's the line. So it's like it's like closing the gap of who you are and your home resonance. And to me, like, I closed the gap even closer than that. I remember being there, like just admiring someone so much as like a leader and a way shower. And I'm like thinking of this person in my mind right now. I wanted them to see the progress that I was making, and I wanted them to see where I was at. And so the things that I was saying, I was like, I hope you hear this. I hope you see this. And that's when you're out of alignment. And I feel like that's the line. That's the boundary.
Sure. Like, I feel like that's a really good point from like the idolizer perspective. Is there a way that like the idolized can also condone themselves to ensure that they're not receiving this idolization, or doing what they can to make sure they're not putting themselves in a spot to be idolized?
Yes. So, okay, there's I love that question because it reminds me of this teacher that I had a little over a year ago, and this is a riddle. Okay, so anyone who's listening to this, let's play along. I want to hear your responses. I won't give out the answer until we get a few people playing along. So, all right, let me make sure I ask it appropriately. Okay. If you had all of God's power, what would you do with it?
Gonna make sure that that's on a banner across the bottom of the screen. Let's hear from the chat. If you had all of God's power, what would you do with it? We were already told that this is a riddle, so maybe there's a clever answer. Let's hear what you have to say. If I had all of God's power, what would I do with it? I have like a weird answer. I would say that I would do nothing at all. Why? You have all the things, right? Like you're ultimately powerful. Like, what's the point of doing another thing, right? Like, it's just another thing you're doing. You're just adding it to the list of billions of things that you've already completed. So
okay,
we hear heal the earth. I have no idea. I bet
Heal
you
the
that's
earth.
actually the most common response. I have no idea because really like all of
Probably.
God's power, that's quite a ways outside of our current perspective. It's a hard question to answer because of that too,
Yeah.
right? Like
Right. So Zach, if you had to do something though, what would it be?
if I had to do something, I would support all these amazing people by hitting the like and subscribe button on this channel. That's for sure. That's one thing that I would do. I'd even do that just with my human power. We got to create 10,000 versions of myself and have a fucking party. That's pretty solid.
That's cool.
Bring peace to the world. Share it with everyone. If I had to do one thing,
Yeah,
oh,
'cause you have
this
to
is
take an
weird because
action.
I know I'm taking a snapshot right here that I'm gonna look back at in a long time and be like, that's what you said. But
Oh,
I know I'm gonna do that right here.
I always think like that. I know.
I guess just like right now, I'd probably like I'd create an Earth that was like my current idea of utopia, to be able
Mhm.
to observe it and see whether or not that utopia actually functions or not. Because that's pretty much the reason that I want to generate it anyways, is to see whether or not that actually works. So
That's cool.
I guess I would probably do that. But that's really just like taking what I want to do as a human and saying I would do it if I was God instantly. So I would
Right.
do what I'm doing faster.
All right. I
So
want everyone to know that all the answers were great, and I said everything along those lines as well,
before we give it
except for
away,
like creating myself
before we give
1,000
it
more
away, let's
times.
bring Aaron onto the screen and see what he
Oh
would do.
yes.
Space Jesus, we have an important question
Yes.
for
Hi.
you.
Tell me, ask me.
It's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. If you, Space Jesus, had all of God's power, what would you do with it?
I would incarnate again and perpetuate the whole Jesus mythology by calling myself Space Jesus and doing a show with Bree Divine and Zach Mortimer. That's what I would do.
He's doing it right now.
Quite
Hi,
literally.
Aaron.
Space
Welcome.
Jesus.
Hi.
He's back.
Hi, Bree. Nice to see you.
We're
Nice
gonna
to see you too.
I
see
can.
if I
I'm
can organize.
almost arm's reach with Zach. Oh, we still can't.
I'm pressing.
Oh, what happened?
No,
Yeah, we're.
I was trying to fix the screens, pressing all the combinations. We would like to have you in the middle screen, but for
Yeah.
the last several shows, StreamYard has not been interested in allowing me to place my guest as the middle screen. So
Yep.
this is
Oh
where you are.
well, is what it is. So I've been
Yay.
following. I've been following along a little bit. Like, well, I've been listening here. Hold on, I'm cleaning it. See if I'm still looking. Kind of.
Well, we're
All
just
right.
doing. We're still having a riddle. What was the question you asked, Zach? How? Okay, so how does
Yeah, do it.
how does someone in a leadership position not fall into idolatry of being worshipped? Right. That was your question.
Yeah, how do they
Basically.
minimize the amount of idolization that's taking place in their interactions?
Well, I want to hear what are the answers so far.
The answers so far to this question, if you had all of God's power, what would you do with it, are heal the earth, share it with everyone, create 10,000 versions of myself and have a fucking party, bring peace to the world, let all beings know they have the power to accomplish only positive outcomes, and I feel like I missed one, and I might have missed one.
And Aaron has to take time
There-
to stretch back out to 608 feet plus.
Yes, that takes a while in Earth's gravity.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys
Go
ready
ahead.
for the answer?
I'm
Yes.
ready. I think we're all primed.
Okay. Of course, I can't give it out just yet, but I'm gonna give the question to you in another way. Let's say you had all of my money. What would you do with it? Like you had my money.
I mean, I would give it back to you.
Oh, thank you.
It's
Awesome.
your money, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
So
probably that
if
makes the
you
most
have
logical
all of
sense.
God's money, what would you do with it?
I mean, going down the same line, I would give it back to God, but in my own like God sense, it would be impossible for me to give the money to anything that wasn't God, because God was both the money and the things that would receive it. So we're
Well,
in a
in
paradox.
this riddle, it's God is a noun because it's possessive.
Okay, so it's a specific
So we
person.
gotta remember the riddle. The riddle doesn't care about your beliefs about who God is.
Fair enough. Then I'll give him. Then God can have his power back, or hers, whatever it is.
Yeah. So if you had all of God's power, what would you do with it? You would give it back to God.
Mm-hmm.
So if I look in, right? So if I look into your eyes and I see God, and you have just given me power, I'm going to give it right back to you.
Mm.
So
Okay.
someone in a leadership position, they need to honor that everybody that they're leading, everybody who claims to be their student, they're God,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
Yeah.
anyone that's in a leadership position, they're not above anybody. They're just a way shower of their own truth, and they're God.
I've always appreciated I
As
don't know
long
if
as
it
the
was.
leader remembers that. Huh?
Sorry, I've always appreciated. I don't know if he's the one who originated it or if it got popular because of him, but oh, what's his name? The giant motherfucker, the guy who's like my height, but also like twice as wide and super intense. He's been doing all the self-help stuff for like a decade plus.
Tony.
Yeah, Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins.
Right, Tony Robbins. Okay, so he did a Netflix documentary called "I Am Not Your Guru." Right, but I think he says in there too at one point, "I am not your fucking guru." Right, you're teaching somebody how to heal themselves. You're basically giving the power back to them. So you, whoever you may be the Kickstarter to that process, but you're trying to give them their own power.
So basically what we're saying here is that we want to make sure that they know that they're really the one that's doing it. You're just showing them the way, and that you're not really actually doing something for them. Is that what you think?
I would say it's not even that, because okay, what like characteristic of someone who is embodying, self-idolization or, some form of narcissism, they feel like they're entitled to be in a position to show someone the truth. And in order to refrain from that, because that steps into idolatry, even when you try to show someone something.
Sure.
So basically what a teacher does is they stand in their bliss. They do their thing. Like they're doing their, I'm not here to show anyone like, hey, you're God, because people are going to feel it, because I'm not trying to take energy away from them. I'm not trying to get claps for my own gain. I'm not trying to
totally
take their
sense.
energy for my own gain and not give anything back.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Now, an interesting crossover of this, though, is the idea of the spiritual business. How do I run a spiritual business and tell them they're doing all of it themselves, but they still need to give me money?
How do you, okay, I think my phone can't handle the three of us on here, because now I can't hear the questions.
Let me drop my camera quality. See if that'll help, because we're on the same Wi-Fi.
Are you on Wi-Fi?
Or well, no, actually, I'm just plugged in Jen's laptop. Yeah, I think it's Wi-Fi. I don't see a hardwire, but I'm down to 480 now.
That is probably Wi-Fi. We should have that on a mobile hotspot, but nevertheless, no time for that. I'm already doing this. Can you hear me now, Bree? It seems
Sorry,
like
guys.
it's her phone.
I think.
We have to. Can you hear me when I drop Aaron from the stream?
Yeah, I think it's just my phone.
Did your phone get really hot?
Let's see here. Yeah, my phone's really hot. I think it's time for a new phone.
It might be time for a new phone for Bree. You have to manifest that for yourself.
Yeah.
What phone are you using?
I'll just go to the store tomorrow. I'm really good at manifesting things.
That's the best way to manifest it. You just pull out your wallet and go buy it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've been too lazy. That's the part of manifesting, is you have to be willing to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I definitely, I was real big, like my mom was real early days to the whole secret thing. And so like I was all through that when I was real young. And so when a lot of people started getting the law of attraction, I was like, okay, well, here's the kicker that they don't tell you in the book. Once you manifest stuff, you manifest opportunities, then you got to do shit. Like if you don't do stuff, you can manifest all day, never get anything done, you know?
It's like the rainbow, the more you know rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah, the more you know, yeah. You can manifest. Opportunities are great, but until you actually jump through windows of opportunity, you're not getting anywhere new. That's for sure.
All right.
So, for some reason, Aaron, I know you can hear me backstage. For some reason, Bree's camera works everything just fine when there's only one of us on here. So if you want, you could come sit in here with me. We could slightly turn my camera, and then we could turn the mic up a little bit, and then we could probably just hear both of us from the same mic, and maybe that'll work better.
You both are together?
Yeah, he's here. He showed up today.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So Space Jesus will show up here in a moment. Actually, well, I'll need like a chair and stuff for that. I have a chair in the other room.
Yeah, my phone is a sissy. It is burning up. It doesn't have the case on it.
Yeah. What phone are you using?
It's like the S7.
Oh, I'm still kind of surprised that that's even having problems, but I mean, this is about probably going to push a lot of phones to the max, really here. So,
We're going to speakers.
What's that?
We're going to speakers. That we're gonna make this work.
Ooh.
Because otherwise I can't hear shit.
Ooh.
Thank you, Aaron.
You could be on your phone. I have more stuff that I need to say. Bree, do you mind if we take a quick momentary break with music
We're
so
good.
that I can get stuff situated? Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna find some music super quickly. We're actually just gonna play the same thing
Zach's real.
we
Look,
were listening
he's
to
a real
before.
person.
I am a real boy. It turns out. See, I can be touched. All right. So I'm gonna stop this screen sharing and I'm gonna open up this other one over here with the audio. It was not supposed to be playing already. Anyways, we're going to take a quick break so that I can shift around all of this stuff and figure it out real quick so that we can have two in here and everybody can hear, and it will just be a moment and then we will be back. Thank you for dealing with our technical difficulties. Look, I even have back soon. Technical difficulties. We'll be right back. So, sorry about this.
Be back soon, Bree.
All right, we might be fixed. Maybe. Can you tell me how the sound levels are? Is this loud enough? Oh no. Oh, I had muted Bree. I'm not going to be able to hear back from you if I don't unmute you. So, is this sound loud enough?
Yeah, it sounds loud enough.
Okay. Hopefully this will be enough to pick up both myself and Aaron. Kind of did this super randomly, so we'll see about that. Maybe it will work. I have a microphone stand in my face the whole time, but that's what we get for this setup right now. I'm lacking cords for a different setup, so this is what we have for today. As long as you can hear us, we should be good. Oh, beautiful. Zach and Aaron look so cozy. Oh.
Super cozy. Okay, there's a light delay on my speakers.
Well, I mean, you have to deal with that.
Okay.
It's a scuffed setup, everyone. Super scuffed. We got like Aaron listening through a phone because I don't have headphone splitters from the XLR interface. They're on the way, and this is all pretty scuffed setup here. But turn your mic down a tad. All right. I definitely did turn it up a lot, just in case.
Because we can move up to the mic.
Yeah. But then we got all this leaning shit going on. Anyways, here we are. If you want the mic turned down more, just say so. Yeah. Well,
personal boundaries?
Apparently I don't have any personal boundaries. I'm literally trapped in a corner right now.
Oh no.
Aaron's running into the thing behind him. It's only held up by rocks. It's gonna fall down any second. That was rocks he just probably heard hit the ground. It's pretty good. It's pretty good what we got going on here. if you didn't tune in the other night,
I can hear you. This is good. I listened to the replay from the last one and I was just like, it sounded so clear, and I'm like, people who are watching this on replay or live, they're probably like, hello Bree. It's kind of like, the reporters on TV, and you're like, how do they not understand what's going on?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, these
It was
audio
fun.
issues and stuff, and delays and all these kinds of things. Headphone amp. Yeah. Yeah, we got stuff on the way. It's just not here right now. Things can't teleport yet,
I'm taking
unfortunately.
notes.
So, we were somewhere. Making sure that if
Oh,
you
yeah.
are a way shower, that you aren't being idolized. And I think we had decided that what it really, well, my question was when we got messed up was, so do you think that the way is it that the way shower ensures that the person who is having the way shown is aware that they're doing it for themselves all the time, that it's not they basically actively manage the dependence that that person would potentially form on them?
Right. Yeah, because the way shower must keep in mind that everything that they do is for themselves. So it's basically they're speaking to themselves always. Like, even though I can be in a room with 100 people who are wanting to learn about what it is that I'm showing, I need to remember that I'm speaking to myself.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, because that's why you're in that position in the first place, because people heard your echo, because you're in that space of a way shower because you were in the space where you needed guidance.
Hmm.
You know, and so it's that perpetual student and teacher, not just, you know, like humbly, I'm always the student. It's like you're literally always the student, or you'll be forced to be humbled.
Yeah. Well, there's like an infinite amount of things to learn. So when we
Right.
get to that position where we think we're not a student, I think we're kind of ripe for a position where we just kind of got a little full of ourselves, right? Like, to think that you're not going to learn anything else in life is a little preposterous, I feel like. Let's give a round of applause for Bree's dog. It's one of the prettiest dogs out there. Doesn't.
I mean,
Yep.
you
See.
heard that.
See how
You heard
pretty
that.
she is. Oh, look how pretty she is. I really like your dog.
She's got her back to me because I tried pushing her down, and so she's trying to show me like how she does not approve of that. I'm sorry.
Don't push me.
I love you. Yeah, she's like, don't push me, Mom. I know. I'm sorry. I love you. You're my number one. But I think, okay, so what I think is really important to remember is that it's not only that, but it's I was gonna say, so Eckhart Tolle, he says that, like, as long as you are in a position where it's like your ultimate highest goal to be in a position where you're helping people, that means the highest truth is that you see your self-worth in a position where people are lacking.
Hmm.
So I think, like you were saying, there are infinite things to learn, and on top of that, I believe it's important to have a solution, to know that your evolution is not going to be a teacher. Like, for me, my highest truth is that, like, I'm starting a journey of healing narcissism, because the healing began with me, and now I'm a way shower of healing narcissism, so others may heal themselves, because realistically I'm talking to myself, right? Because I've journeyed through this path. However, if my ultimate goal is to end narcissism throughout the entire globe, like, not a single person will ever give birth to another human with narcissism, that's the purity, that's the highest truth, then this isn't my sole purpose. My sole purpose isn't to heal narcissism, right?
Sure.
So we can get stuck in actual literal narcissism in the spiritual world when we lock ourselves in, like, ooh, this is really fun to be a teacher of healing narcissism. So that means that I need to be in a world of narcissists for me to feel my sole purpose.
Right. That's something I've actually, like, for the last couple of years been touching back to a whole bunch of times. So, like, if I want to be a healer, there has to be sick people everywhere.
Right. Right. Exactly. And so it's that same concept. So what I've done is I've just projected from what I could perceive my soul's evolution to its highest form, knowing that I'm not experiencing that in my 3D, in this, like, literal manifestation yet. However, I need to honor where I am now because this is just the building block, the stepping stone to get to where I'm going. I may reincarnate 4,000 times before I actually imagine peace on earth or whatever. It could be tomorrow. I don't really care. But what I'm saying is the mindset has to be that my sole purpose is peace and love, like its highest form, because where I'm at now is just temporary. A teacher, a healer, being a healer is just temporary. It's not goal. It's not enlightenment.
So you and Zach may have talked about some of this earlier. Okay, the echo in my voice. Okay, I'll put this in when I need to hear you, Bree, and I think that'll work perfect. Okay, so so you and Zach may have talked about this earlier, but obviously I came from a dynamic that could be, although it was never diagnosed as such, from a lot of the, and actually we were talking about on the video last night, maybe? It's been a long 24 hours. It might have been last night. Okay, we were talking about some of the materials from Teal Swan, because when through the last few years of the marriage that I was in, the way she would break down the psychology on relationships and understanding, specifically the narcissistic dynamics, she discussed that, but a lot of different dynamics, just understanding the different relationships, the inner relationship dynamics, the traumas, and she does a really good video that I agree with on that we're all DID to an extent. We're all fractaled, we're all fractionated, our psyches are all, sharded off, if you will, into little psychological loops or things that are stuck or unintegrated or whatever. And if that happens at certain age groups, you can create what they've termed in the DSM-5 or whatever. It's just like I think there's 10 or so disorders: narcissistic disorder, codependent behavior disorder. Like there's like 10 different ones. They're all similar. They're like overlapping spheres, and they all have their own nuances for different dynamics. But like, how would you repackage the whole narcissistic dynamic, not just DSM-5, but based on your own experiences with other people, obviously things I've been through and a lot of empaths and empath pathways have been through. How would you explain that maybe another way?
Basically like how we absorbed trauma and developed codependency. Is that kind of what you're asking? Like,
yeah, and I think that, and
sort
just
of?
like,
Okay.
because I could say, like I said, my situation with my ex-wife was the narcissistic dynamic, right? I understand for me, knowing her specifically, 'cause, like, so the thing with labels for me, labels can be really beneficial because it helps package up a lot of behaviors, a lot of symptoms, if you will, psychological symptoms or whatever, that at least puts it under an umbrella that you can maybe trace back the roots of those dynamics. But the disorder itself
Right.
ultimately doesn't really matter. It's not an identity. I am a narcissist, or even I am an empath. It's a framework that helps to understand a whole lot of other character dynamics or assets or aspects. And so I can say that with my wife, even though in that dynamic, or ex-wife, even though that wasn't ever officially diagnosed, but the framework fits. So is that kind of more what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's totally what I'm talking about, because just kind of like, the picture that we're looking at of the yin and yang trees. Both of these trees, they're part of the same ecosystem. They serve the same purpose. However, they're not complete without each other. Like the picture is not complete without each other. And so they both stem from the same source or same creation. And for an empath and a narcissist, the source of that creation is trauma. And this trauma could be a feeling of a lack of control, or freedom was taken away from you. And when you experienced freedom being taken away from you, then immediately you identify possession. You identify that there is something to be taken from you, and separation. So then, of course, loss of control. So the difference between these two, there are many different characteristics, but the root of it is that the narcissist, when they experience this trauma, their response is one of survival, and they put up a shield. So they put up this like impenetrable shield so that they can survive. And that's how a narcissist is recognized as someone who does a lot of deflecting and gaslighting, because to them, they're not okay with a transparent truth, because a transparent truth means vulnerability and it means death, death of ego, we can say. For an empath, they can experience the same exact trauma, so the same source of what created this traumatic personality disorder. And so this empath, instead of their impulse to put up a shield and protect themselves, they actually develop what I call a savior syndrome. And so they feel everything, they absorb everything. So the same exact thing can happen to two different people, and one puts up their defense to protect themselves, and the other person says, like, absorb it and says, I feel everything, and it's better that it hurts me than it hurts you. And so that's how you see this dynamic in two people or with others. It's because of how trauma, just specifically though, because I like how you reference Till Swan references all these different ones, but I've just been able to identify empath and narcissist because I believe that the cause of trauma was the same. It's just their response to it was different, which creates their yin and yang and their attraction and basically their addiction to each other.
Yeah, totally. And that makes sense. And so how would you, obviously for like my dynamic, I knew it was the right time to move on. For me, it was the right time and the right way. All those things fell into place, but I was able to prepare myself psychologically for the steps that would have to happen to actually walk out a separation process so that I can be in a place now where I can grow and I can be myself and bring myself into all of the relationship without being punished for being myself in some way, some expression of learning or growing or just being. And so how would someone find balance knowing that on some level we co-created or we created, mirrored back a dynamic where we wanted a narcissistic dynamic in a relationship because we need to learn something or heal from something or grow through something, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know when you've learned enough, you know what I mean, to move on from the
Right.
relationship?
I would believe that when you have transmuted all your triggers from that relationship, and you don't have to be in that relationship to transmute those triggers. So for example, one of mine was, and I didn't know it at the time, I didn't know that it was jealousy because I'd always I never had issues with anyone liking me for me, until I was in this relationship and this person wanted to change me, and I changed for this person and they still were fooling around and not being loyal to me. And so that created, longing for something outside of myself. So I ended up going into an environment where I could put myself in situations where I could experience jealousy. And one of those places is a strip club. And because I wanted to know, I asked myself questions. And so anyone who's going through what you went through, what I went through, those of us who believe that we are the package deal. We are awesome. Mm-hmm. We do deserve to be loved. And I'm so glad that I made the decision to leave this relationship for my health, right? But we know that just because we left a relationship, it doesn't mean that we've got this whole package deal that we can bring to another one. It means we really need to rehabilitate ourselves. And in order to do that, we need to be able to sit with ourselves very honestly. So honestly, that's what I had to do. I stayed single. Are you guys still there?
We're there.
You're good.
Oh, okay.
There's another thing I haven't figured out with my camera. It resets the lens suddenly every, I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, something. There's no setting on the camera telling it to do that.
Oh.
But we're here. Continue, please.
So perfect. So anybody that is in this position to I want to be in a healthy relationship now that I'm out of the toxic one, it's almost like let's say you're about to start a diet. You're about to start a new diet, and you maybe want to cleanse your system and you just want to do a detox. So if I want to stop, quit eating dairy, and I want to see the positive effects of a non-dairy diet, then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to detox my system first. So I just had dairy today. So I'm probably going to do a cayenne pepper and lemon cleanse. And I'm just going to make sure that my body is in this pure 0 point, so that when I start on my journey, I know that I don't have the toxicity of, the proteins and milk in my system. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I do is I get very real with myself. What is it that I'm wanting to get rid of or transmute? And you know what it is. You don't need to say it. Other people, they know what it is. They don't need to say it, because we know that if we linger, we don't cleanse because it wasn't the other person, right? It wasn't the other person just triggering us. It was the other person showing us what we needed to change. And so if we don't do that on our own, someone else is going to come through and we're going to go through that cycle again. So I think it's radical responsibility and self-acceptance.
Like what you said, you know that you're ready to move on from that relationship when you're no longer triggered by it, and then obviously you don't even have to be in that relationship to experience that reality, because those triggers are gonna, I mean, there's plenty of people, you see exes or people who have been broken up, right, that my fucking ex, they did this shit, that motherfucker, right, they've still got all these triggers for whatever reason, right, and I'm still processing through mine with my ex. There's new events that come up and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to work on my own reactions to certain dynamics, but knowing in the relationship that when I finally got to that place, I think I talked about last time we talked about the dynamics, but early on in the marriage, I decided to just decide that everything she was pointing out to me about me that was wrong or bad or off was probably true, and really just dive into that for years, and not like thinking I'm an awful, wicked, terrible human being, but that there's places inside of me that she perceives because she lives with me, because she knows me, because of our energetic connections and our soul ties and all those dynamics, that I probably don't perceive. Now I'm aware that she's responding to those things potentially as like they're actually like a 2 or a 3 as some type of deep issue, but because of her specific traumas and the way she's responded to them, she's perceiving them as like 10s or 11s or 20s. They're a huge deal and they're all consuming, and if I don't deal with them, everything else is wrong, right? And so okay, trying to find my own balance with that, knowing I'm not like some awful human being because apparently there's things I don't see yet that apparently are blind spots because they see them and I don't. But then accepting the reality, if that is true, where would I find that in me? And allowing that to be an always true framework to, I mean, over years, I remember several, maybe a year or 2 years before I ended up leaving, that I remember clearly understanding in conversations fully what was my shit and what was her shit. And it was such a freeing feeling. There weren't triggers, it was just a total awareness of who I am outside of what she says about me from her own perspective. Not that she's some terrible awful person, but her own lenses have skewed her having objective perspectives of me. And ideally you have a partner that's able to grow with you and change their perspective of you, because you're growing too and they're growing, and like so when they've crystallized into a perspective of you, I mean, how long can you stay in a crystal box without breaking out if you're constantly growing?
I love that you said that, because it truly is about the other person's perspective and where they're at in their purity of how they see themselves. Because I did a post recently about if you actually get naked and stand in front of the mirror, like you hop out of the shower and you look at yourself in the mirror, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And the first judgment that comes to your mind is what you're getting reflected back in your relationship. And so let's say that could be a positive thing to some people and it could be not so positive, but whatever it is, that's an indication of what you're attracting in your relationship. And so even if you have worked so diligently on yourself, and let's say you do see that, you see the purity, you're like I'm awesome, like maybe I had a little bit too much to drink or eat the day before, I'm a little bit bloated, but whatever, I love you for who you are, like you do you. If you have the attitude looking at yourself in the mirror, but then your partner doesn't, your partner's just like, whoa, what's up with you? I'm not saying that just because someone says shit to you, it means that there's a subconscious part of you that is thinking that, on some level of unconsciousness, yes. However, I believe that that just means that person is stuck in their own, past version of themselves that you once fell in love with. Like you both were kind of here hanging out, and then you ascended to here, and this person's still here, and they're just like, come back here, I miss you, come back over here with me, like back when I used to make you feel like shit and we liked it, and you're just like, and you're just like, screw off, man. And so that's kind of the time when you kind of realize you're no longer a reflection of who I am, so you don't fit in my reality anymore. You outgrow them.
On that dynamic, so have you found so for the last few years of my dynamic, I was super happy. I was super content. I was doing me. I was finding beautiful places inside of myself, and it was just great. I found out what was me and what was her. It was beautiful. I was totally happy and content and growing and great. And so I found these eddy pools, if you will. So when the narcissist, I guess, or whatever, would start to go in these downward spirals, trying to pull you back into that perspective, but you're not going there, right? but I'm also not trying to get
Yeah.
in a fight with her about something where I know what responses will trigger just any more intense downward spiral or something that will be negative for me. But I want to maintain my happy space within our dynamic. So being able to like redirect those spirals into these own little eddy pools that didn't affect me. I'm literally sometimes a earbud into here, listening to my own things, totally happy, but just kind of swirling them up in this little eddy pool, and then me being totally happy, living in my own world, literally right next to them, but no longer having to be like constantly barraged with that intensity or anger or whatever. Like most of the time that works. Some nights I'm still sleeping in another room just because I don't want to deal with this, right? But like, but it worked pretty well most times. Like, have you experienced that kind of shit?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I actually played around with that. That was probably the last phase that I experienced right before we split. Because
yeah, totally.
Right? Because it's almost
Yeah.
like this pseudo, it's like it's like this. It's like you're in your home and you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna make my own little retreat. I'm gonna go on a retreat. And so you build your own like little campsite like in your living room, and you're like, this is my fort and no one can be in it. And but then once you go out and you're gonna go to the bathroom and you're just gonna go to the fridge, you're like, don't look at me, I'm not really here. And so you still are kind of creating this pseudo boundaries, like pseudo heaven, pseudo like, you know, this is my space, but it's really not.
Yeah, that's like creating a last stand, but not trying to start a battle or a war. Like you said, creating your own little retreat spot within the relationship, within your own psyche, or within that own relationship with it, which is its own entity, right? So you have your own entity, if you will, that brings the relationship they do, and then the relationship is its own fucking entity for sure. Any relationship,
Right.
especially intimate ones and living together, it's its own dynamic. So when you learn to have to carve out like a retreat center within that relationship entity, and you finally found one, that's great. But it's usually like, all right, it's time to go, man.
Yeah.
If I have to live here, I gotta go.
If you need to take a retreat
Yeah.
inside your own house, you might need to retreat from your house entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you realize you're like, I need to build my own house, and you know what? It would be perfect if you were just not in it.
No doubt, 100%.
Yeah.
I think that is the thing, like with the empath, a lot of times they seem to have trouble getting out of the narcissistic relationship because very much so they are codependent and they don't take their own space in any way, and they don't say like, look, I don't want this shit in my life anymore. Do you have advice for them to like make that stand? How do they make that stand easier? How do they get themselves to have the confidence to make that stand?
That's really great. That's a really great question because I didn't have the confidence to make that. I actually had assistance to make that for me.
What kind
I
of
ended
assistance?
up, I would say angels in the form of humans, you know, because
Oh, I love that. Elaborate.
yeah, yeah, because I remember being in that phase of like, I'm manifesting a happy relationship. Like I'm building my little fort in the living room and I'm happy. But then I like bursted out of it because I didn't have the freedom in my own home that I wanted. I couldn't express myself freely.
Yeah.
So, right. And so then after I came out of my fort, my tent, I realized like I actually got really depressed. So that's when you actually see the reality of where you are. You know, because it goes like this, right? You're like, I think I got it figured out. And then you're just like, okay, no. And then you're like, no, I didn't try this though. You know, it's like, oh, I got to go back to the book. Got to go. I'm like, oh, I didn't try this. It's my bad. So the empath says like, oh, it's on me because I can see everything and I can feel everything. So let me just like make sure I'm the one doing everything right. And so I kind of felt like it was a dance. I was like, if I take this step over here to the right and then this to the left and then and I hold it like this with one hand in the air, like I'm making this antenna.
Let me
and
just
God can
really
hear me.
ingrain in what you said. It's not just kind of like a dance. It's the most fucking elaborate subconscious, unconscious dance that you learn to dance with every fucking moment of every fucking day because every fucking thing you think or do possibly comes into their reality to manipulate yours in some fucking way. So yes, it's very much a dance.
Yes. And so then, you actually manifest, like, you're like, oh shit, I actually am like manifested this self-fulfilling prophecy, you know? And so it's either like a good thing or a bad thing. It's like, okay, I know that when I come home from work, if I say or do this, this is what's going to happen. And so it could be a really fun high. You can go on a high with it, but then you just want to just relax. You just want to just like not have to do the dance anymore. And so then that's when my whole, my tent fort collapsed and I just gave up. And it actually turned into severe depression where I was selling timeshare and I had a customer coming in and it meant a $5,000 commission for me. They confirmed they were coming and I knew that I needed to have the money. And this is where self-sabotage comes in again, because self-sabotage was a theme throughout the relationship, but it comes back in a very big way, like a big dragon that just, it's like it knocks you out. I just didn't show up to work. I didn't let anyone know. I didn't care. And I missed out on the deal. And that money could have gotten me out of the home, right? Like the money was actually like the reason why I wasn't leaving when I should have left.
Right.
But I just couldn't do it. So I ended up leaving timeshare. I was like, screw it. I started massaging at a casino, like at, poker tables and stuff. And this random guy just like shows up out of nowhere. Literally, he had a mohawk with like, like a big sides with a full on mohawk and a beard and a black hoodie and 2 lays. He had like a bright neon lay with a bright neon pink lay on top of it. So he was just like this big guy. And he comes like barreling in. I'm like pitching these guys about a massage and he comes running in. I thought he was like the ringleader of the group. And he's like, I'll take one. How much is it? And I'm like, okay. I'm like looking at the guys like, is it okay if I redirect to like the man? I'm like, this is weird. And I was like, sure. I tell him how much. He's like, let's go. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you're just gonna leave your friends? He's like, oh, I don't know who those people are. So this guy literally like dropped from heaven and bombarded in, like said, come here. I start giving him a massage and he's loud. He's crazy. He's like a bull in a china shop. It's midnight in the Hard Rock and he just flops down on this little sofa. And I'm like, I don't think we're allowed to do this. You're supposed to be sitting up. He's like, I don't care. Everyone's drunk. Let's do this. I'm like, all right. And he's like, tell me your story. I'm like, you don't want to hear it. And he's like, no, tell me your story. And as an empath in that position, I was like, I've learned to not talk about bad things, right? We're like, if you talk about bad stuff, you're just going to be attracting bad stuff. But I told him my story and he said, we need to get you out of here. He said, I'm only in town for a couple days from LA, but you're going to tell your husband exactly what you think of him. And he knew what was going to happen after that. And I was like, I've never done that before. I've never told him how I feel. He's like, you're going to do it for the first time. And I'm going to come back in 10 days and I'm going to get you a storage unit and we're going to move all your things out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah. I was like, what the hell? So then we exchanged numbers and, which is something like you don't do. Like I could have lost my job over it, but I was like, I need to stay in touch with this guy. So we exchanged numbers. We went to the Pepper Mill, which is open 24/7. It's like a super old, like all the old people love that place apparently. And it's like a Denny's. So we met at Pepper Mill at 2 a.m. when I was done with my shift. And he just showed me like motivational movie after movie. And he just really asked me, he's like, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, I want to be like Oprah. I've always wanted to be like Oprah. And he's like, okay, so first you got to take care of yourself. Yeah. I'm like, all right. So he showed me the way. He was kind of my way shower. And he took care of me. He showed up, like you said, in 10 days. I told him, I said, hey, I told my husband how I feel about him. He told me to leave. My husband told me to leave. And he's like, good thing you're moving, huh? And I was like, well, I don't have a place to live. I don't know anybody here. All my friends are his friends. And he's like, you'll find a way. And I did. A friend had a friend and they let me stay there for free and everything worked out. He picked me up. He shows up to my house with my ex gone. He was at work. He shows up to my house with his big, it's like a really nice new, like big Toyota. I think it's a Tacoma. It's like a big Tacoma truck, 4-door, all the windows down, music blasting. You can smell a little bit of weed in there. He's got his lays on. He's got 2 big ass American flags like coming off the back of his tailgate. Like this guy was not.
This guy's pretty extra.
Very.
They're American flags, though, not Confederate flags.
You know what? One was probably a Confederate flag.
Yeah, probably.
Probably, yeah. Sounds Confederate flag type.
Yeah, he was just all about it. And he had his like aviators on and he comes out of his truck. He's like, all right, let's do this. we're going to grab the things that we can and we're going to get out of here. And I'm like, okay. We grabbed all the things that we could, and he got me a storage unit. But that I didn't have. But here, okay, so here's the thing though: is Aaron okay?
Yeah, he's fine. He just had to sneeze
Okay.
real fast.
Oh, okay.
No way to meet Mike.
So the thing is, though, I guess to answer the question, if you have a desire, oh, she's loving the story. Thank you.
Mhm.
I believe that if you have a desire, oh, thanks. Yeah, self-trust. The thing is, though, is that I didn't. That's the sad thing. I didn't have self-trust. Faith
That
is
was
probably
this guy
a
with
really
the
good thing to
Mohawk's
say.
name. His name was
Self-trust.
Self-Trust.
I know. His name
Basically.
is Isaac.
Yeah, but that's
His
might as well have been self-trust, because it's like, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go tell your husband shit that you would never say, and you're like, I don't trust myself. He's like, you do now, and you're like,
Yeah.
and he's like, then you're gonna leave, and you're like, I don't trust myself. He's like, you'll figure it out. You do
Yeah.
now. It's
Yeah.
like,
100%.
his name was self-trust, basically.
His
Yeah.
name is self-trust. Exactly. I named him Magic because for the first time I felt like someone saw me.
Mm.
Like literally, he would say things to me, and I was like, "This is magic." Like no one's ever spoken to me the way that you have
yeah.
spoken to me, you know. And I developed
Okay, so-
this like.
On that note, do you feel like you've had those interactions with other people? Where, I mean, because I feel like what you're describing, because like, okay, so what you described to me is really beautiful, because you have someone who comes in dynamic. You're a massage therapist. You're a beautiful woman. He come in and have all sorts of agenda. Oh, I'm going to help her out. I'm going to help her move out, and then I'm
Right.
going to, maybe try to hook up with her, make her move on her. And for someone to, through the whole process, being a genuine human being who sees you in an opportunity to express your heart and what you're going through, and be able to reflect back to your own higher self or your own words to help you just do what you already know you're trying to do. Right? That's a pure form of like loving someone and interacting with someone to get them going, to help them for the sake of helping them, and it helps you too. I think it's really cool.
Yes.
Do you still
Thank
talk
you.
to Isaac?
Yes, I update him pretty frequently. We FaceTimed a couple weeks ago. He was showing me videos of the blue ocean. He's in California. He's someone who has inspired me to assist others within the narcissistic experience. And he said something to me that, and this is what's so important to me, is that when you have a way shower, you really are dependent on the way shower in a good way. Okay, so I don't want anyone to hear words and associate negativity, like judgment, on it.
Mhm.
Because a baby is dependent on their mother, like they need
Totally.
the milk to survive, right? So a person who is experiencing this type of what I just experienced with narcissistic abuse, and they don't have trust or faith in themselves, they have to latch onto something else or someone else. Like you have to. There's no pride. There's no ego. It's recognizing that where I'm at is not where I should be, and it's not where I want to be, and it's not getting better anytime soon. And in fact, I know that it's getting worse. Like you can see the ground crumbling, slow motion beneath you as you're about to take this leap. And you have no other option to hold on to anything else but the person that reaches out their hand as the way shower.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of like when you're drowning in the ocean. It's not necessarily because you can't swim. Maybe you've been out there for two days or whatever.
Yeah.
You just can't tread water anymore. Technically, to stay alive, you're dependent on a life preserver or something like that. Even though you can swim, you just can't now.
Well, no, so that reminds me
100%.
of... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I just agree. That's beautiful.
100%. Okay, so it reminds me of too when I was going through the time, I think we maybe talked about this last time you were on too, but I was going through the period of dealing with the fact that I had been molested and prosecuting the man who had molested me, that whole 1.5-year trial process. And I remember getting to a point where just emotionally, internally, I was drowning. I could just barely keep my head above water, right, for days or weeks. I mean, I could barely function. And I remember a really good friend of mine from high school, this was my first year of college, she was still in high school, but her older sister, who I had known, she was 2 years ahead of me in high school, and I hadn't really known her in person, but I've known of her. Well, she had become like a really passionate Christian since that time, and like into the more metaphysical side of the Christian dynamics or whatever, and more how would you call it, spirit-led music, spirit-led articulations,
Oh,
or
yeah.
psychic readings, if you will, or prophetic words in the church. We probably did they use that terminology in the Mormon Church? A prophetic word.
Gift of tongues.
So I say it again.
Like the gift of tongues.
All
Just like
those, right? So
speaking
gift
in
of
tongues.
knowledge, gift of words, prophecy, gift of yeah, all
Yeah.
those the different gifts that they use they operate within the church.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so we met her over winter break, and I remember getting in the car, and also she had been through a situation where she'd been molested too, and so she was very familiar. We'd had, I think, a conversation on the phone maybe or whatever. But I remember getting in the car. We went to go get some coffee just to kind of initially hang out, and then we're going to come back to their place and chat or whatever. And I just got in the car and just started sobbing in the back seat and just crying, right? And I remember she reached back, put her hand on my leg, and just like she's praying for me or whatever. But I just the whole time, like I was crying to the coffee shop. I'm crying on the way back, and I'm just at the end of my rope, right? And this is, we ended up going up to this kind of semi-furnished attic space, and we're up there for several hours, and she was able to really reflect back to me like my own spirit or my own heart, and to speak things in ways that I just have never heard outside of myself, right? In a way that, like, there's no way she could know that shit. The symbol sets, just all this beautiful shit. And it was a massive, I was able to talk with her for the next few months, like when I needed to on the phone, and process through shit. I mean, kind of the way I do now, just based on where I was at in life then and within those frameworks. But that was she and people like that along the way, whether in that dynamic or what's interesting to contrast that with my marriage situation is I literally had no one. I mean, everyone I've talked to, or the counselors I've talked to, people who've done this kind of counseling for a long time, they're shocked that I've lasted as long as I have and have been as healthy as I am coming out of it, because I shut off all the avenues for potential outside objective perspective. I mean, just the whole dynamic that happens because their behaviors and the traumas they're going through, they just shut everyone else out because their own insecurities, and then they don't want that behavior to be exposed, or
Right.
just that whole cycle. And so I allowed myself to go into the abyss, if you will, because I'm either going to find myself or destroy myself, and either way results in finding myself, and it's usually all those things over and over again, right?
Right. Yeah.
Seems so.
Yeah, it seems to be. So it seemed like a good avenue as any. And it finally got to a point, like I said, where I was able to discern between what was my shit and what was her shit so clearly that I didn't have a person to cling on to, because it wasn't ever about another person in that
Wow.
relationship. It was knowing I couldn't grow more into being me if I stayed. So the thing I did cling to, though, because another monkey bar to reach out for before you let go of one, right? A person, someone's hand,
Right.
or an idea, or a concept, or a framework, And so, like, Teal Swan and a bunch of other people helped give me psychological frameworks of what it would feel like, not just look like, but feel like to actually be free of that dynamic. To not have to make a little campsite retreat within our relationship, but to actually live my life where I can shape my life around me, And so holding to that framework, moving out of that dynamic, not having our person or dynamic, and allowing myself to feel all the anxiety and loneliness and shit that came with it, because even though I wasn't going home to an abusive dynamic, I still wasn't going home to anyone. And when you build your life around going home to someone, that's a lot of emotions and things to process, and a new neurological reality to adapt to. And it just takes some time, but it's worth it.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, I feel that, those who are listening, and let's say that you're not in a relationship or you're healing, and everybody's healing, right? But let's say you're solo right now. I feel like a lot of people who want to be with someone and happy with someone, what they're doing now is like a bridge. And would you say, did you get into any relationships or a new hobby or a new career that became your passion after, retreating on your own?
Even within the relationship? Well, so there's two. So within,
after the.
Well, so a lot of, I think the reason I was able to transition so well is because I was able to come into my own within the relationship for a while, really expanding my understanding for all the frameworks I have now.
Right.
I mean, to even be able to do the show. And for me, that was incredibly satiating to cognitively put together the frameworks through my own experiences, research, internal meditations, all my own dynamics, that it gave me something to dive into cognitively, physically. All the amount of time I spent looking at materials, printing off materials, building things, doing my own science projects, orgone, creating my own energy devices, learning my own ways to interact with subtle energy, all that stuff, as much as I could in that dynamic, until it got to the point where okay, I don't want to be treated like I'm bringing demons in the house because I have crystals or I have a crystal bracelet or something. You know, it's just like I don't.
What
it's
if
hard
you
to-
were bringing demons into the house with those crystals?
Dude, I knew what I was doing. I was aware of what I was doing.
Oh, it's okay for you to bring demons in the house because you know what you're doing.
No, like
Yeah.
if there were, I'm like aware of what's going on. But she wouldn't even talk about like cleansing crystal or like even the metaphysical
That's what they all
dynamics. Or,
say.
like,
I can bring
get outta
demons in
here.
the house. I know how to get them out.
yeah, the basics came by basic crystals and like wash them and cleanse them and use them for basic shit because they're like blatantly demonic no matter what you do. They're demonic and it's like okay, come on, man. So, but anyway, even within that relationship, I would find oases of expanding in my own, developing my own skill set. So I spent 3 or 4 years becoming, you know, some level of like a master woodworker. I did some incredible shit. And I taught myself how to do amazing shit. Built all sorts of built-ins in the house and all sorts of projects and all sorts of taught myself how to do soldering and microelectronics, which carried over to being an electrician. And like, there's so much shit that I super like saturated and expanded in my own life in beautiful ways because the framework I set up for my relationship, I wasn't going to get
Were
outside
you-
of that. But sorry, go ahead.
Were you the breadwinner? Like, were you supporting the family?
100%, yeah.
You were, okay. Because for some people, like myself, I was not the breadwinner and I didn't have any money. And so
Mhm.
I feel like someone in that position, it's much more difficult to like find a hobby.
Sure.
To-
Yeah. If like
to fund
finances are
yourself.
controlled.
Yeah. Yeah. If they're
Yeah.
controlled by someone else or like, you know, lack of
Totally.
ability to like, so it's like, what do I do? You know, how do I put my passion into something?
Yeah.
You know, but what you're describing though is like being creative, like creating something. And so
Yeah.
if anyone can just get into a creative space, even if you can't afford these like big projects, like that's so key. And that's in my
Yeah.
book, like even especially when you're in the relationship, you should be focused on something because what an empath does is they put their focus on the other person.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. Instead of some external additional
It's like-
creative expression.
Wait, say that again.
Instead of putting it on the other person, instead of your own desired external creative expression, and instead of trying to balance another person, we're really trying to balance you, and you're tired of being imbalanced. So do something else that helps balance you instead of a person you can't control.
Yeah, empaths tend to trend towards caretaking as well, which is, I mean, in my experience, interfacing with them is generally like they have that common human drive to progress and fix things and make stuff better, but they project that outside of themselves in a methodology of not engaging their own things.
Hmm.
So you can do this with anything. You
Right.
can do this with, like being super interested in the NBA. It literally doesn't matter. You're just like totally looking at that and like, oh, well, I did it at one point in time. Like I was so into like soccer at one point in time in Manchester United, and I'm like analyzing all of their tactics all the time, and I know what kind of signings they need to make and like who they should be playing in what position and all this shit. But like, why are you doing that logical exercise, right? Like it's a sports game. You're not the coach. It doesn't really matter whether you do any of this. There's some reason why your brain is choosing to take on that exercise rather than something that's actually beneficial.
We're still here.
Yeah, it's true.
My camera blinked.
Okay.
My camera's eyes get tired.
So it's interesting.
So if
fascinating
my-
bring up. Sorry, go ahead. Go, Bree, go.
I was gonna say if my no, sorry, keep that in mind. Don't forget it. I was just gonna say if I go black, it's because my phone died. Like my
Whoop.
Curse of the
My
commentator, perhaps.
charger decided. So we're just gonna.
Yeah, it's just your
I'm
phone
gonna try to
getting too
jimmy
hot.
rig it, but if
Do
I
you-
disappear,
Do you have your phone actually against something? Like, is the back of it against something being held up, or is it being held up on a tripod?
It's being held up by a tripod, and I'm trying to.
Yeah, you could
Put-
try seeing it if you have
put some
any other
pressure
apps
on
running.
the little
You could
whatever.
close those,
cord.
and maybe that would help. Phones,
Alright.
ladies and gentlemen. It's amazing that
We're
we have computers in our pockets. It's crazy that we are even able to do this really honestly, in the modern world, able to have a podcast like this. So
Did you
some
know
technical
that the
difficulties
phone
sometimes.
in your pocket has more transistors in it than fill an entire building
It's like,
to
don't
send
forget what you're gonna
apparently
say,
people to
Aaron.
the moon?
Please. Don't.
Apparently.
That's not.
We're gonna let Brie get her stuff situated real fast.
And if it doesn't work out, then that just means we definitely have to do a part 3 with Brie.
We're probably gonna do a part 3 with Brie, anyways. We gotta let her come on and redeem herself with her new phone when she gets one. That's for sure. We'll take this quick break here to remind everyone that we do like to support all kinds of people, including indigenous individuals in the Amazon. We have a Patreon and a GoFundMe running. We can feed people in the jungle for $4.50 a day. We have a wonderful person on the ground by the name of Dio Demero Matias Menes, that is a 9th generation ayahuasquero and shaman of his village of San Francisco, just outside of Pucallpa. He's doing great work to keep everybody alive, feeling good around there, take care of the jungle. That helps out all of us. They would like to have some of our help, since right now we can't help them by way of going down there to get ayahuasca treatments and pay lots of money so that he can get money for that. So instead, us, the people who have already been helped by ayahuasca, are helping him make sure that he can feed all the people that he needs to. I don't know who the people are that he needs to feed. I know that he's a good guy. So if you guys feel like you can help out, please donate to the things. The Patreon is for a more running thing. It's a monthly subscription. The GoFundMe is a one-time thing. We're trying to get them a lump sum down there and then continue to be able to help support them as well. If you feel like you can't donate, please just share it around to your friends. Give them a nice, wonderful story about how much the Amazon means to us and how much the Shipibo people are protectors of the Amazon. Now we have Brie back to help protect us from narcissists instead of from logging companies in the Amazon. Brie, is your phone cooler now? Oh,
Thank
We got
you.
you. You're
I had muted her. That's my fault. My bad.
I'm good now. It seems that it's back to charging. So
Okay, we're back in for another run. So, do you remember what you were going to say that she told you to remember?
I just want to point out again too that it makes a really interesting an important differentiation, right? The difference between people in different settings. So even though so you or people in those situations where they don't have additional finances to externally create in that way or fund, obviously there's different ways. That's different dynamic, and that's where it's nice to have those. Voice of self in other people dynamics, reaching out at the right time in the right space. I think part of sometimes it's letting go or choosing that we're gonna, even though we don't know how. Because even in my situation, even though I was the breadwinner, for me that's the other side of the coin. That's knowing I'm in a situation, in a relationship where has not been beneficial for me in an emotional or healthy way for a long time, yet now I'm in a situation where I may lose everything and have to go bankrupt because I'm trying to leave a situation. And so there's still things I'm working through on those dynamics that I'm having to process through. But those were things I knew I couldn't worry about the consequences. If I'm going to make the right choice for me, that stuff's going to have to figure itself out over time. And that's hard to do in a dynamic, but it is interesting that the nuances that do matter when you're in the situation, how you're able to actually go about pursuing next levels of liberty for self.
Sure. And I think that we can agree that when we're in the position where we're like, I really need to put my heart and soul into a hobby, whatever that turns out to be, I feel like we can agree that at that point, it wasn't just like we woke up and we're like, it's time to practice self-love and I'm going to create something. It's actually, for me, it was like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
Nothing's working. Like, nothing. Right? Yeah. And it's like, I'm like really upset with the universe. I'm like, that's not working out. That's not working out. Screw that. I'm not happy. Like, I've had enough. And so basically, it has to be this passion in your belly. Like this, it has to be like, if you can do this, if you can just like scream in your pillow, like put all of your energy and your passion into this is not good enough, because I promise you, that's just a vibration of desire. There's no, I don't believe that there's like a good way or a bad way to express yourself. I feel like in a spiritual community, I don't know your listeners intimately, but I just want to ensure that people who are listening, it's not about like, you know, what the perceived love and light is to manifest what you want so you can create something that's meaningful to you. It comes from pain. It comes from discomfort. It comes from this is not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I feel the question really
I
gets
remember
asked when you're in a position of major confusion. Usually that's the moment where you're like, fuck this, I'm answering this. Like, I'm tired of this confusion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, this is not fun anymore. Like, you just put your hands up. You're like, what's going on? Like, this is not fun anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not having fun.
I had like
You
a
know?
slightly
And
different,
so
it wasn't
if
like
people
about
can-
not having fun, but it was still utterly confusion. Like I woke up from a fever dream, like I got all sick after I broke up with this person, and then I woke up from this super bad fever dream, and I like jumped up, and I was like, fuck this, I choose love. And the immediate next thought was, I don't even know what that means. Like I had chosen it, but I had no idea what it meant. And I like, my all systems were already go on it, you know what I mean? Like this spirit or whatever had stepped in and was like, you're going this way now. And I was like, I don't even know what that means.
That's funny you discovered that from what you knew it was not.
Yeah.
Well, that was the whole path for love for me, is
Yeah.
to learn about it through what it
Right.
basically what it was not. And so yeah, it's one way of doing
Well,
it.
yeah, it's like based on your desire and whatever that is, it's a desire of, you know, recognizing what you don't want. So you just put it out there. So your desire is going to bring forth something to assist you. So before I actually met, I call him Magic. His name is Isaac, but I call him Magic. Before I met Magic, I actually had a dream. It was my first lucid dream I think I ever remember having. And I remember seeing a blonde woman, and she was like an angel. She was like literally in like clouds, but all I could see was like kind of her shoulders and her face. And I looked at her and I said, "Are you my angel?" And she said, "Yes." And I remember being brought up in the Mormon religion because I was lucid dreaming. I was like recalling things. I was like, "Oh yeah. When I meet an angel, I'm supposed to put forth my hand, and if they shake my hand, then they're an angel of God." So I did that. I put my hand out, and she shook my hand, and I remember feeling her flesh. I was like, "This is like a human," but she anyway, she was so beautiful. I just remember that, and I just felt this peace. And I was laying in bed with my husband at the time. I was incredibly unhappy, and that was around the time where I said, "This is not good enough." You know, like I'm not good enough. This isn't good enough. I'm done with this. And then I had this dream, and when after and I believe once you get that honest with yourself, when you can be that honest with yourself and then just say it like it is, like you basically just like you've checked out, which I think is okay. Just let go. And so I did that, and so I actually woke up from my dream with my hand straight up. Literally, I'm like laying straight down, and I woke up with my hand up like this.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and it was like, you know, early in the morning, late at night, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
I've been told by several
and it
people
just
that I was
told
in
me-
relationships with that in the middle of the night I put my hand out in front of me and I just start scratching my arm really slowly. I've never woken up to it, but I just wanted you all to know that I'm really weird.
I think we're all really weird, man. There's so much shit like that we do. I don't even think we realize. It all means something, man.
We all, it means something.
Yeah.
But that was like, to me, it was enough to raise my vibration, to be curious that there could be something there, you know, there could be assistance. Like there's something going
Totally.
on that I can't see, you know? And so you're going to
Yeah.
get this assistance, one thing after another, to raise your vibration so that you can be in alignment of the things that are supposed to come in and help you.
Yeah. I have an idea. What if we bring this a little closer and then
Good luck.
turn the mic volume down? Because it's picking up the keyboard really loud.
I don't know, I'm not typing, so.
Oh yeah, good idea.
We're figuring it out.
Yeah. So we got sidetracked by Zach typing keys, I guess. Talking to chat. got to interface with both the guest and the chat. So I get to have two. It's
Bree
so
knows.
interesting.
Bree understands.
Like live streaming, the idea of like, I mean, like I have stuff open on 2 monitors. I manage all like the branding of the stream, chat, hold the conversation, try and have my own ideas as well. It's quite the juggling act.
It's fun watching him do his stuff back here backstage. I mean, 'cause I can see it from my end, and I know what he does. But
No,
it's cool
Mello,
seeing him do
that's a mechanical keyboard and 250 words per minute typing speed. So it sounds like a typewriter because it's.
it. And because the mic volume is low.
I could
We'll
show you
figure it
my
out.
keyboard if you can see. I don't know, my camera quality's not that good, but you see how there's big circles right there on some of the keys. That's because I literally wore through the texture grip on my keys.
Mm-hmm.
So we type some words over here. It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, this is a good quote of me right here. Click, 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 click.
It's true. Who knows it this
Click.
whole time?
And the thing that you don't see is that
It's
like
like
at
music
least
to
half
my
of those
ears.
were backspaces. So
I love that. Jasmine. That's cute. Yeah, I remember being a kid and we would get the words per minute test. You know, I remember being in like
Mhm.
5th or 6th grade or something, and I would go home and practice. We'd
Yeah.
have like a little floppy disk of something to practice on for homework. And I was like
Yeah.
born and raised to write. I love clicking on my computer.
were you competitive about it? Did you need to type faster than everybody else in the class?
Oh, yeah. And I was.
Right.
I was the fastest.
You would have hated me in my in your class. I got started on a keyboard when I was 3. So I had a when I got to typing class or keyboarding or whatever they called it, like I was already like, yeah, I'm a wizard at this. You know, like this is. It was funny because the lady who taught my first keyboarding class, she had a really hard time typing without looking at the keyboard at all, and I was like 140 words a minute, not looking at it with 0 errors at that point in time. I was like, I should be teaching this class, not
Wow.
you, right? Like,
Well, you definitely
obviously.
timed your incarnation to be in this era for sure. You're well done.
Well, I think it's more the fact
Yeah.
that like I was born and then moved into a household with my mother that when this was 1984, we had 4 PCs in the household. In 1984,
Wow.
4 PCs in the household. Yeah, that's a weird. That's
Wait,
a
the
rare
real
bird.
question is, when you guys got internet, could they all be on the internet at the same time? Or were there
We-
still one phone
We
line?
were the first people in my city to have digital subscriber line. We were literally the first installation of digital subscriber
So
line. in
you're
my
saying
city.
you got to bypass all that, like...
No, because I definitely started on the internet at the very beginning. I went through all that shit. 9600 baud modems.
Yeah.
Those were a real deal connection for me. I remember being excited when we got a 14.4 modem. I was like, oh yeah, we're doing good. Now we got like more digits.
Is it kilobytes? Hey, how much is that?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, a 14.4 modem would get you about 1.4K a second download speed.
Oh my god.
It took you pretty much like
That's when
most of the
Napster
night.
songs took like minutes or hours, right?
I
Songs.
was a beast on Napster because I had an actual connection. I had a DSL connection then, so like I could actually upload to someone at a good speed and shit. It's like
So it took 10
So-
minutes to upload a song instead of 30? Because you were
sure, yeah,
fucking blowing by people,
something
bro.
like that. Actually, by the time that Napster came around, we were running an internet service provider, and we actually had a dedicated T1 line ran into our house. So that was like 1992 or something like that.
Wow.
I had a 1 meg up, 1 meg down line that was hardwired into the phone system. It cost a lot, but yeah, I'm literally born on the internet, basically, guys. Pretty much born on a computer. They actually installed me into this realm from a large 5 1/4 floppy disk. So that's why I'm so skinny, because I come from a disk.
13-dimensional floppy disk inserted into 3D.
Unreal Tournament, yeah. I
Those are
used
the
to play
days.
Unreal Tournament dialing directly up to other people. Before you actually went to a server, but you actually literally had to dial their computer to play together, I was already playing first-person shooter games with other people.
Well
Duke
done,
Nukem,
sir.
the first game you could ever actually
yeah,
play
right, Duke.
across a LAN was Duke Nukem, and I played it the day I got it across a LAN with my friend Joed, who was also a computer nerd. So, nevertheless, lots of computers, got plenty of that. If anybody has a tech problem, feel free to reach out. And I'll tell you about how much I hate doing tech support, and then you can figure it out on your own.
screen share.
Yeah.
You're the tech
yeah.
way shower. I would
Yeah.
not be able to handle it.
Yeah, I'm Arcturian through and through as far as the technology
That's
side of
awesome.
it goes. So, yeah, you miss floppy disks? I do not. I'm very much so looking forward to USB-C jump drives so that I never have to think about what direction I put something in
No
again.
shit, that's
I
the
just
most
stick it
ridiculous
in
choice
and
they
then it
ever
works. So, I'm tired
What's that?
of all
What's
that.
that meme with the USBs? Where like, if you didn't get it right the first time, try it the other way, but then you're gonna have to try it again.
That's literally the life of a USB drive right there. Whatever way you put it in first is not the right way, but neither is the second way,
Nope.
and it only goes two ways. It's
Absurd.
magical.
Always.
Yeah, I like how they ended up making phone chargers out of that too. So you
Yeah.
like get to see people like
Jesus.
reaching in there trying to plug it into the phone. Oh, god.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. What
Clever.
the hell? Why'd that work the second time?
Yeah,
Have you
thank
seen the
Samsung,
demon one? Like
for
the
your
demon under
USB-C
my bed?
connections.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
where
yeah.
the guy's like reaching in the back trying to stuff it in there. It's all tight behind his bed.
The worst.
Oh man, I'm so
So
glad we
funny.
live in a different day and age than that. Like we had literally like a whole shelf of floppy disks that were all kinds of various different programs, and even like my mom worked for a program developer named Assurance back then. So even like developmental software and shit that they were building, like literally a fucking wall of floppy disks at my house. It's like one side of the house was all these floppy disks and computers, and the other side of it was just an enormous amount of art stuff. And that's pretty much how my mom took over the whole house. So, yeah. I don't know why we're talking
That's
about
impressive.
this. My mother was an empath and definitely got destroyed by a narcissist at about 6 years old. And Zach got to step up and be the man of the house and keep his mom from wanting to kill herself, which led to Zach severely traumatizing himself for a very long time. And he's just recently gotten over this trauma. Let's get a round of applause for Zach finally getting over the trauma from being 6 years old. He just wanted to help his mom out, but it turns out he was actually sucking up the demons of a narcissist, and it turned Zach into wanting to be a homicidal maniac that he had to keep under control for 30 years. He didn't kill anybody, ladies and gentlemen. Good job. Another round of applause for not killing anybody.
It's true.
Good job. It's tough in this world.
And to understand his
Even if you're
psychology
sane,
in
you
such
kind
a
of
way.
want to kill people sometimes. So, pretty good. Pretty good.
Zach doesn't
Happy
want
to
to
be
kill anybody because we're doing a podcast now every night for like 31 days, and there's no end in sight.
Yeah.
And we're
I
counting.
started it out with 4 digits in the episode number to make it so that I had to go at least 1,000.
Yep.
So,
What's funny is I started my vlogs on the YouTube channel like last year, the same thing.
Good.
Like number 0001, like some of the Joe Rogan stuff, and I kind of saw this kind of thing coming, even though I didn't see it exactly the way we were doing it now. But
yeah.
Yeah.
It's all right. We'll be able to take Joe Rogan's audience since he's moving over to Spotify. Thank you, Joe Rogan.
cool.
Appreciate that.
What was he doing before?
He pushes his stuff to Spotify, but he's moving exclusively to Spotify at the end of the year because he signed a $100 million 3-year contract with them.
Really
That's correct.
awesome. That creates a lot of space for the digital sphere that we're entering into.
Yeah. And so you all know about taking your creative things and selling them to big corporations. In the next day, Spotify's stock went up in amount where the company gained $5 billion. So $100 million was not enough for Joe Rogan's podcast to be exclusive there. He should have gone for about $1 billion,
Uh-huh.
and they still would have made out like bandits. So not
Wow.
very good on that one, on the old business front for Joe Rogan.
That's the best
So,
news I've heard in a while.
It's
Good
pretty
for
funny,
Joe,
huh?
because he's fine, right? He could have got more money.
Yeah, he
but
didn't
he's-
need $100
he's
million
fucking fine.
anyways,
Right,
realistically.
he's fine.
Yeah,
But like
he'll be
that
fine.
opens up space for but not just us, but people like us and for Bree and other people like to be in that space.
Yeah, who
Especially
we
for-
really need to get on the podcast is never mind Joe. We need Duncan Trussell, because Duncan Trussell's, in my personal opinion, way
He gives
cooler
us
than
hope.
Joe Rogan.
And he'd
Yeah.
have the conversations we'd want to have. Probably I've only heard a little bit from him, but like he'd go down rabbit holes. It'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So, nevertheless, these things are not
Bree,
about empaths.
Are you
or
gonna come hang
narcissists.
out with us? We've got
She's in
Collie
Vegas.
here. Yeah, come on. That's not far. How far is Vegas? Come to Riverside.
Couple of hours.
I know. I need.
Eh.
Yeah. What? 3? I'm about 3.5, probably.
Something like that. My friend Will's actually
you know what
supposed to
I've been
drive
wanting
over
to
from
do?
Vegas in just like a day or two.
We can
Or
caravan
three.
it. We have a gypsy gathering. What's it called? And you gather the gypsy
Who?
wagons.
Wait, who's coming?
He was on the podcast once. His name's Will Graham. He lives in Las Vegas as well. Well, his family does. Will kind of
Oh,
lives
cool.
wherever the hell he is in the moment, but his family lives there. So
He's coming
Nice.
from Texas right now through Vegas,
Well,
and then over here it looks like.
Okay. Yeah, because I've been wanting to go to California just to go. I just want to camp. I love camping out of my
Awesome.
car.
well,
Yep.
I've been wanting
Me
to
too.
do that.
I mean, if you're okay with camping out of your car at a house, we have a house where you can camp out of your car. That's for sure.
I mean, yeah, that works too.
if you pull up in the front driveway, it looks out to a
That
very
works
nice mountain.
too.
It happens to sit
It really
directly
does.
on the Mount Shasta vortex, right on the ley line,
That's where we're at.
right here,
now.
ladies and gentlemen. So
Wait, that's where you're at?
the ley line runs straight down as it goes basically down to the next connection point that's really major is Lake Titicaca, but that ley line runs literally right next to our house, where we are.
He's like right at the base of a
Okay,
big
that
cool
goes
looking mountain.
really
thing.
far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes technically all the way around the world because that specific line is known as the Serpent Line, and it actually loops up all the way up by Alaska, and then comes down through Shasta, and then keeps going down and down and down until it gets down all the way into Peru, and then starts looping back up. Most of the time, this ley line is in the ocean.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Wow.
The major
I didn't know
chakra
that.
ley lines are all where you have a convergence of what's known as the Hartmann grid, which goes in basically XY, and then the Curry grid, which goes on diagonals to that. But then they also have a major serpent ley line that comes through there as well. Or the most major spots are where both the serpent lines cross at the same place where a Hartmann and a Curry cross is, and you basically get, it's 4 different sets of 2 different lines. So you would say 8, or you could say 4 of 4 because it's 4 points. 16, you get major conjugation at these spots. And that's where, like, the Pyramid of Giza would be a perfect example. It's on a place where all of these lines cross. That's directly in the center of the Pyramid of Giza. Obviously, they did not know
Okay.
anything about this. They just guessed where to put it, and it happened to land on one of, 3 spots on the Earth where this happens. Total guess.
And I have conjugated my 6'6" ass into that fucking sardine can of an airplane, 2 of them, to get my ass here with I haven't bought a return plane ticket yet, just one-way ticket. So I'll be here for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 7 days. I don't know, whatever.
He doesn't
Right.
even know.
Whatever. So we'll be around, man. We can do cool shit.
So,
Yeah, that makes me think of, like, the meridians though that we have in our body.
very much so. Energetic
You know about
channels.
those, right?
Everybody has energetic channels. Ours aren't shaped quite as perfectly as the Earth, but we're not shaped like the Earth. We're not a sphere. So get a nice, good harmonic distribution on a sphere, but on something shaped like this, not so much. A little bit
I
different.
only manifest limbs and phalanges when I want to. I'm usually a sphere.
Yeah, I mean, technically, we could all say we're all spheres. So, according to Heart
Yeah.
Math Institute, functionally, we're a sphere before we're anything else, because our magnetic field created by our heart, it experiences everything before we actually experience it. So, yeah, hearts, love.
That's true.
This is the battle of the empath and
That's
the
true.
narcissist. 2 people trying to find love, one through its antithesis and one through its superthesis. And hopefully both of them can work together to find their way to the middle. Usually not the case. Usually one learns and the other one burns, but, that's how the world turns. So, what can you do?
And it rhymes.
Yeah. Well, they always
So
rhyme
it's
in my
true.
head. Sometimes I take them out of rhymes so that they sound like normal sentences. So, yeah. So,
That was great.
on the empaths and narcissist, anything that you feel that we haven't covered that's extremely pertinent.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here.
By the way, the answer is yes. If you're dealing with any type of narcissism in your life, or you're an
Ye-
empath who has experienced it, you should reach out to Bree and work with her in whatever way that you can. Get her book, get her workbook, try
Yes.
and maybe get her to work with you directly, because she even in my older years, which are I'm not even old yet, but the oldest ones I've had, it was only like a couple months ago that I had a conversation with Bree where some stuff that she said really made things click for me in different ways. In fact, actually, oddly enough, technically this podcast is a fallout of something that Bree said, because Bree said something which sparked having a conversation with another guy who coincidentally, since we're doing the rhyme thing, his name is Lee, and he told me that I basically needed to engage with the hobby, which is oddly what you are saying now about the hobbies. You were just saying that a little while ago. And what he was telling me to do was not what I wanted to do. But what I did want to do when he said that, I knew right away. And I knew I wanted to get into messing with basically sound, like live looping of sounds, making music and such. And so I like immediately started doing that. Like the next day I got like all the programs that I needed and got tons of loops and everything. And I started doing those. And would end up being a really long story if I told you every hoop that it went through. But long story short, like it definitely rekindled a fire or an ignis inside of me that made life like turn a lot better. And then I ended up, one thing led to another. I'm talking to Aaron. I'm wanting to do this thing. Like it all just built from there. And it's really amazing how quickly things can change if you have the proper way shower. And Bree was in many ways that proper way shower for me just very recently. Thank you for that. Round of applause for Bree for helping Zach find the way.
Wow, thank you.
So big support for me.
Yay,
Personal
Bree.
support, not like she's been on my podcast, so I support her support. But realistically, I really do support Bree. Bree, I really do support you. So I really like what you're doing.
Thank you, Zach.
I think you're a great person.
Me
Thank
too,
you.
Bree.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. You guys, that fills my heart. 'Cause, yeah, thank you. You know, I do want to say something that I feel like is something that is like, that I know that an empath is feeling right now. Like right now, an empath is feeling, well, now what? Like, now what? I hear what you're saying. And okay, I need to make a change. I'm not happy. I'm not comfortable. And guess what? Empaths don't like asking for help. Empaths don't reach out for help. They don't. They're very comfortable in creating problems in their mind because they're told by their counterpart that you don't finish what you start. You know, they're like why are you going to try something new if you don't finish the last project that you started? Why are you going to try something else if you didn't have success in the other thing? So the empath has this echo in their mind that says you're not good enough because your track record proves it. And so the empath has a really, really tough time asking for help because they don't want to let someone else down. They'd rather let themselves down and stay in a pattern that's familiar to them by letting someone else down, because at least they know the next steps and the patterns and how to respond to their current environment. But once they open up and ask for help from someone who they don't know, their biggest fear is letting that person down. So, and they usually relapse, even when they're like, no, I want to change, and they lean on someone for help, they're going to relapse and probably go back to their relationship and be like, well, I just wasn't in a place. I know where I was at, but I'm in a better place now. I'm stronger. So now I can go back into this relationship as a new person with a new perspective. And that might happen. But because you're stronger, you won't last much longer. You won't last long. So,
Said
yeah,
much
you
as
won't,
Mel
like,
says,
you
I
won't
feel like
put
it's
up with
a
the
personal
bullshit.
attack.
Mello feels like you're personally attacking him. Right on base. Willow's being made emotional as well. So how do we ask for that help? And if we can't just ask for that help right now, how do we get ourselves to a place where we can ask for that help?
Well, I'm creating a channel for it.
Yay!
So I want anybody who is listening. Yeah. Yes. And I'm calling it magic.
Cool.
And yeah, it's my tribute to magic.
Awesome.
And this channel is going to be a community. We're going to build a community. And I just started it. But it has to start with the person being willing to, like, they just have to say yes. So just start with, go onto my Instagram. That's the best way to reach me. Send me a message, and that's all I need to know. You can send me a heart. You don't have to tell me your story. Just send me a message with anything, and I'll know where you're at, and we'll get you into a magic community and make sure that you are heard and you're validated and that you're connected.
So by basically just reaching out at all is what you think
At
is
all.
kind of the sure.
And also in an internal motivational aspect. So you deserve what you need to make you happy. So what do you need to do? You need to make the internal choice that I deserve. If you want to use that framework or those terminologies, whatever it is for you to internally make a stand in your own sovereignty, in your own reality, that I deserve to choose my own reality, not be dictated by another person, and whether they're eventually going to grow up or come along or heal enough that we can grow together, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's fine. Those are things, obviously, anybody in that situation has dealt with for, those questions seriously thousands, millions, trillions of times. So whatever it is for you, though, like for me, like I just knew I got to a point where I could no longer continue to grow or bring myself into the relationship without hurting her, because she wasn't able to grow in that way. So I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know when I was going to go. But because I made the decision internally, all the other steps fell into place in the right ways in the right time. And it doesn't mean it was easy or fun or at all. Like the dynamics of those things were awful. I mean, Brie, obviously, there's lots of conversations, there's lots of days that are just awful, hard and awful and painful. And so having community, having Brie, having different people who've heard have our own experiences with these dynamics, just being around them and hearing them to encourage you to ultimately, you've got to make those choices for your life. And it's the internal frameworks that you create. The 3D steps will fill themselves out. So you make the internal frameworks for you, that you're choosing you. And then you're going to have Bree and other amazing people to help have their hands out and help you every step of the way. Because we're all not going anywhere.
Yes.
And we love you.
Yeah, it is very important to choose you. If you are a caretaker out there, and meaning that you really worry about how other people are doing, please make sure that you give yourself as much care as you give to other people. Really, the separator between a caretaker and a caregiver is whether or not they give that care to themselves, or they just take away everybody else's ability to care for themselves by always stepping into the way to make sure that they are rendering the care. If you're always stepping into the way to make sure that you're rendering the care, well, who the hell's caring about you? You're doing a lot of work out there. Make sure that you're caring about yourself. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And, you can't serve from an empty vessel.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because it's going to be, if it's a new thing, which it usually is, if it's a new thing for an empath to take care of yourself, sometimes it really starts with boundaries and expressing it by just saying no. Like, I'm not going to do that. Or no, you're not going to talk to me that way.
Actually,
they can just start there. And then
specifically Jen here, we had an interesting way of getting over it. She had an inability to kind of like tell herself no with thoughts and with like internal dialogues. And the way that I actually worked with her on this was I actually had her start telling me, like, to very assertively tell me to shut the fuck up, just like in the middle of talking. Like, for no reason, for a reason, didn't really matter, just because it got her used to interjecting into the middle of a thought process to just shut it down. And progressively from that, she got better at interjecting into her own thought process. Like, yo, wait, shut the fuck up. What am I doing right now? Like, hold up. I need to stop this down.
Yeah.
So it's functionally that thing of saying no, right? Like, if you can't do it in the dose that you need to do it, try it in a lower dose. Like I do this with the asking for help thing. Don't ask people for help like, hey man, can you give me $1 million to help me accomplish my dreams? Start out with something very easy, like, hey, would you mind holding this for me real quick? Even if you don't need them to hold it, just ask them to hold it, do something else, and then come and get it back from them. It just gets you better at asking for help, right? Now, maybe, maybe you're wasting someone's time with that, but if you think that, you're a caretaker, because they could just say no. No, I won't hold that for you. Sorry. So,
Right.
we have to give ourselves the same chance that we want everybody else to have. If you're an empath, you're probably in a position where you want the world to have this really easy time, and you want them to really flourish and, have a lot of love and all these good things. Make sure you're doing that for yourself. Otherwise, you're literally part of the problem in the world, Like,
okay, so
at home is where you can do the most work.
Here's a phrase that's come to me in the last few months. Heal healers, heal healers.
Yeah.
Right? So when you heal yourself, you can heal the world, but really you position yourself to, like, I've had many awarenesses of, like, that I'm going to interact with. Like, we talked about this. Frank's in the chat. What up, Frank? people like Frank I've run into through YouTube or different things, I just knew I was going to interact with them at some point in the future, right? And actually in person, whatever. It just was. It wasn't a celebrity thing. It wasn't whatever. It's just like, it just was. It was a reality, right? So knowing when you're going to, oh shit, I think I totally lost my train of thought.
Aaron likes to misplace trains of thought.
I do.
Sometimes.
Oh.
It happens.
It's because he
Healing healers.
tuned into Frank. We will
Ah,
take a second to give
yes.
a big round of applause for Frank Castle and the Chat of the Fearless family. Good job, Frank Castle, for
Yes.
existing.
Zach and
We
I actually came together
also
through
love
Frank
you,
because
too.
he found me, I think, through Frank's Fearless group that we've both been a part of. So
I
there's
think
a lot
that is
of
where I first saw
connections.
you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of connections in the
Probably.
family and the dynamic. Okay, yeah, heal healers. So,
See, I knew we'd bring it back.
yeah, Bree brought it back. I put my earbud and she's like, she brought it up. So, but when you know who you are and you know the dynamics of like how you can heal, and then you find other people, it doesn't matter how far away they are or whatever, where they're located, there's a dynamic of know when you can connect with certain people to heal things because you've healed them in yourself that other people haven't yet. And that's true no matter who you are. It has nothing to do with like, being some person. I'm just talking about meeting random people on the internet. You can even have, obviously me and Zach just really connected like a little over a month ago, right? And I'm down here now for 7-ish days
Yeah.
or whatever. So like they can be that quick when we're all on these paths to deep, like you're saying, radical responsibility and self-awareness and self-healing. And then you just get these vortexes of healing yourself and healing others and helping healers heal themselves and just all this beautiful shit, man. Yeah.
I love that. And I want to add on to that because it's so exciting because some people listening, there could be some muggles listening to this and they're just like, what's healing? Like, I'm fine, but here's the thing is that I posted this yesterday on my Instagram story about every single person who, let's say you identify as a healer. If you're a healer, you are so important. Like, you as a person, you are so important. Your role here has its own intellectual property. Did you guys hear this last night?
Mm-mm.
Or is this? No? Okay. So, for example, I'm using this phone because someone invented an iPhone, right? And
Sure.
You're using your technology because someone invented it for you. So I brush my teeth because someone invented a toothbrush and a toothpaste. So literally all the
Right.
things that we're using and we're playing with, there used to be a void and there was a problem and someone was born and came up with the solution and they were invented of the thing that we just like take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was their intellectual property. That's like why they came here to produce this thing. Well, for me, my intellectual property could be a number of things, but right now it's my own healing. And what's my own healing? It's like sometimes we don't know until we know, and so on the healing journey, it's like, woo, twisty, whiny, up and down. We're in the ethers. We're 6 feet under. We don't know where the hell we are. Like our healing journey is so radical. Like when we finally come back to home and center and we heal ourselves in these different facets, it clicks and you realize that no one could have done it for you. Like there wasn't anything that someone could have done for you to heal because you've healed yourself. And then that becomes your gift or your medicine. That's how we heal the world. But like that becomes your medicine that you embody and you share with other people so that they don't have to. So basically what I'm saying is, as a way shower, your intellectual property, for me, it's like, hey, this is the way to heal narcissism. Like no one else has to figure out, no one has to invent the wheel on this because I just did it.
Yeah.
And so that's so exciting.
Yeah, totally.
What was that?
There's so many wheels, right? That we've all had our own story, our own journey, and that's why it's so important for people to share their story, their experience, what they've been through, the frameworks they created, the ones you did, the ones you're creating, because we're all always healing. None of us are totally healed. I mean, Zach shared his stories. Recently, the 6-year-old dynamic of him and the narcissistic dynamic and things being brought to awareness from interacting with you and you telling your story, right? That's Frank telling his story. It's me telling my story. But we're all constantly healing. I've got childhood trauma shit that's been stirred up in the last week the closer I've gotten to coming here. I know there's shit inside of me that because I'm around certain people that are dealing with their own shit and been through their own journey, there's a resonance here where I can find levels of healing I couldn't have found before this moment. So that's going to stir up other traumas that are like able to be dealt with now because, as you know, in a narcissistic dynamic or just trauma in general, your psyche can't process trauma unless it feels safe to actually bring that to the forefront in some way, shape, or form. right? So
Yeah, it's inevitably going to guard against
Right.
it if it already feels at risk.
right, and so then like at a soul level, there's positive things. There's an environment where now there's egoic, if you will, or this incarnation traumas or past incarnation or whatever. There's traumas that can now surface. So I'm aware in my vessel. It's not has nothing to do with like, oh, am I not supposed to go now? It's like way deeper than that. It's actually a perfect result of being present with people like this, because there's times of dissonance or that uncomfortable agitation or the coagulation or whatever, as we're refining and bringing coherence to those dynamics. So it's cool. We're all growing. We're all healing. The more, like I think we talked about last time, a beautiful person to me is someone who's healed themselves enough to help heal another. And we've all healed ourselves enough on some level to share that story. It can be a pathway and a light shower, to show a way shower for showing someone through something they're going through. So it's great. We're all in the same boat, man. We're all fucking humans figuring this shit out.
Yeah, and I'd like to toss in
Yeah.
the pot too that while we say it's healed healers heal healers, maybe I think we're all closer than we think we are. We focus very much so on the things that are the problem, the things that are standing in the way. We've proven inside of neuroscience that actually the brain has a bias towards the things that it finds to be different or problematic. It's always trying to solve those things. You probably have a ton of good things about you. You're probably like 85, 90% just fine as you are right now. That 10% becomes the focus of all of your actions because you are very much so interested in the things that are different or aren't working perfectly, and you bring those things into your reality, create them into your reality so that you can try and reach towards more perfection of yourself. And you're always just growing, but you're probably a lot closer than you really think yourself to be, because you probably spend all your time focusing on your problem rather than how much of a fucking solution you are already.
How dare you pump up your self-esteem? You need to focus on how shitty you are.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, be your own best cheerleader. Yeah. Like, I can't even tell you how many times, like, anybody who's lived around me can vouch for this. Sometimes I do stuff, and then, like, after it, I take a step back from it, and I'm just like, you're fucking amazing. Like, I just pump myself up, like, as much as you possibly can. I'm like, you're so fucking amazing. You're great. I love you. You're awesome. You're the perfect person for this. And I'm just sitting there just talking to myself.
100%.
And some people would think, like,
Right.
oh, this is pretentious or whatever. No, it's not. I really love myself, like, a lot. I think I'm awesome. And if you don't think you're awesome, too, well, we can help with that. Either a person like myself or a person like Bree or a person like whoever is the proper way shower for you, because you are awesome. You just think otherwise, and it's really a mental problem.
Because that's not narcissism.
Right? Yeah. No.
Yeah, that's not narcissism.
It's not narcissism to like yourself.
No, or even think that you're the best.
Sure.
If you know that you're the best in what you do, then you're the best in what you do. That's not narcissism. In my book, I actually put in this, anybody that's watching this, you can get this free ebook. It's in my link tree. Or email me. So anyway, I label the narcissist as the truth bender, and the empath is the truth seeker.
Yeah, I saw you post that too the other day. I've really been thinking about that. I really like that.
Yeah, thank you. Because I'm okay with the word narcissist. I'm just not okay with how the world has painted a picture of false narcissism. Right?
Yeah, they've made it very shallow.
Yeah. Very shallow.
In a certain way.
Yeah.
It's just like a person who is full of themselves, which is like that's not even scratching the surface.
They're the narcissist
of what it really is. Yeah, they might be that.
Yeah, and I think that it almost keeps the empath buried into their like well, I'm not perfect, and at least I'm not the person showing off. Like in their mind, I'm like, at least I'm not a narcissist. But it's like, no, you should really love yourself in the way that you think is probably narcissism. You just got to try it.
And it's so much fun to really be able to love yourself, like to be able to enjoy yourself. Like we'll be doing a lot of that here, especially with other additional facets of perception engaging our physiological dynamic. Dude, because it just adds like levels of self-awareness and being able to express that and have fun and like laugh at the stupid shit you're doing. Like, okay, for example, earlier today, when we came over, so I did dab, right? And then it was like I was coughing a lot. And we can talk about that shit. It's fine, right? It's California. It's legal.
Good.
All right.
Too late now.
Too late now. All right. So like, I did one. I'm coughing a lot, and I'm trying to determine whether it's worth, like, I was referring it to having like shitty coke, right? Like the doing coke the first time I did it was really shitty.
He asked
coke.
about taking a dab, whether it's legal or not, and then he's like, I was metaphoring it to coke.
No, that's hold on, but that's different because this is sometime in the distant past.
That was
That's
back in the
totally
80s
different.
when everybody was doing coke. It was totally normal.
It could have been yesterday.
Okay.
It's like in the distant past. The other one's like right before the show. All right, so like, but the first time I had like shitty Coke or Coke, it was like super shitty. It tasted like heavy metals down my throat the whole time. I didn't get any kind of like really euphoria. Dude, Adderall's way better than this shit. Like I was super annoyed, right? So it wasn't worth the negative side effects for the positive effects. So I'm coughing a lot. It's painful. I don't know if it's actually worth like the high I'm gonna feel or whatever, right? And at one point I was assessing like, you know, they were kind of asking, okay, is it worth it now, or do you feel like it's worth it? And I wasn't sure, whatever. I was enjoying the high and we were doing other shit. But I realized later, out when I was with Jen just processing shit, I just started laughing out loud. So I'm like, fuck, I totally asked the wrong question. The question that mattered was, if I take another hit, will the high get better? Or will it just extend what I already have? Because it's a really important variable for me to decide if I want to take another one. Right? So now I gotta try again, if that's the case. But my point is, talking out loud and being able to just enjoy yourself and enjoy being with people instead of like, you know, knowing your spouse. So if they found out, they would think you're ushering in demons and like, you know, just all the shit you just gotta deal with because someone else is imposing their fucking reality on you. You can't just relax and be. And it's the most rewarding, free, most beautiful, healing thing I've ever experienced in my life. To be outside of a relationship or outside of a dynamic that restricts me from just being present with myself and being able to experience and enjoy myself as I'm learning and growing and experience whatever the fuck I'm experiencing.
It is important to be able to be ourselves. And I think really in this empath narcissist dynamic, we have an interesting kind of inverted format of both of them not really allowing the other one to be themselves, in that the empath oftentimes taking kind of the caretaker role really just like supports the narcissist and maybe even goes so far as to enabling their behavior. And the narcissist operating in that inverted fashion will go so far as to gaslight the empath into not even believing in their own reality. So they're doing literally anything to take them out of their own behavior. And in both cases, we're really seeing them kind of lead the other one away from what is their true self. But coincidentally, as reality generally is, that is exactly what leads them to understanding themselves in the long run once they reach the breaking point. Bree's phone has gotten very hot again. So here's
Hey guys,
what
I think
we're going.
for
Here's
me
what we're
to-
gonna do.
sign off. My phone is it's
I'm gonna mute Bree for a second. Bree's phone is getting really hot. What we're gonna do is we're going to run a little bit of music. If Bree does want to come back and sign herself off after that, then we will do that. If Bree does not, we're gonna cut the live stream a little bit shorter tonight because have lots of people over here, and so we're gonna go do real life stuff. We might. It's altogether possible that at some point in time I like bring up a stream on my phone or whatever, and like just us hanging out, not good
Totally.
audio quality, no production,
Over the next few
just
days, lots of
literally
random
just
ones.
some good old fashioned Twitch TV IRL streaming where we
Awesome.
just literally live our life and stream it from a phone
Also,
at the same time.
this chair right here is for people in our community to come hang
We
out.
will leave 2 chairs behind here. In addition to that, we also have many protections, many other good fine wares, and portals. This whole space where my computer sits is literally a technocracy altar, basically. So, if anybody wants to portal in to the future, we would love to
Come
have
on,
you
Frank.
here.
We've been practicing this. I want to see you just show up here, Frank.
Frank and Kevin, you are expected to show
yeah,
up.
you guys show up in these chairs and
Um,
we'll do some music shit. Be
We
awesome.
will definitely be having Bree on the show again. Bree can best be found on Instagram. I linked it in the thing. I don't have it up again right now. Her name is Bree _ Larson, LARSON, on Instagram. She posts all kinds of cool motivational content
Seat saved,
and
Frank.
constantly about stuff that has to do with her books. She has a very interesting story, parts of it that she hasn't tapped into here. She was she was an exotic dancer at a strip club for a period of time and totally did this as kind of like this subversive way of expanding consciousness of other people and learning about herself. And it was really like it was so interesting to me to hear about it. So we would like to have her on the show at some point in time with that. Again, Bree underscore Larson on Instagram for sure. Not sure about other social media platforms. If you go to that, or you go to the link that I'm going to drop in chat right now, you can pick up her free ebook, The Empath's Guide to Healing Narcissism, an Introduction by Bree Divine. You can pick that up on there and see if that can lead you in the right direction. I'm sure there's a bunch of good information in it, and if nothing else, you'll have this wonderful symbol that's on the front of it. We're going to go ahead and run some music, and I'm going to message her on Instagram and see if she wants to come back and outro herself. If she doesn't want to do that, then we will probably be back to say bye again. And if she does want to do that, then we'll be back to hear from her again. Either way, we really do appreciate all of you being here tonight. We hope that you learned something worthwhile. If you didn't, hopefully you laughed or something like that. So please like, share, subscribe to the video, donate to the indigenous people of the Amazon. Support us in any way that you can, because supporting us is supporting you. We will continue to build this community, bringing things forward for all the wonderful people that are inside of it. Everything that is on my radar for what could probably take up the next 30 years is literally just to help a whole bunch of other people. So let's do it together. I can't do it on my own. I already did all of my own things.
Yeah.
It's not fun to play in the sandbox by myself anymore and have all the toys.
It sucks.
So, nevertheless, we would
chair.
love for you guys to come and hang out. We're going to leave these chairs open right here. We're going to turn on a little bit of music and hope we may see you later. We may not see you later.
We gotta leave half the screen with the chairs so I can pop in. That'll stay as a focal point while the music's playing, because we're gonna be out there.
I mean,
anyway, right?
I can leave the whole thing as the chairs for a focal point.
Oh, totally.
While the
Let's do
music's
it.
playing.
I'm gonna finish these French fries.
This is Reinhard Burr, excellent live looper. You can check him out. You see his name up at the top there, ReinhardBuhr. Incredible live looper, has some wonderful albums. You'll hear some from him now, and we love all of you. Hope you have a very wonderful night. Maybe we'll see you again at some point in time. Maybe not. We'll see.